Hello, hello, hello,
Hello.
hello. Okay, okay, can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your mom mentioned we need to prepare for your test, yeah? Need to prepare
No,
for
I
your
don't have
test.
test.
Yeah, come again, come again.
I don't have test.
You don't have tests?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's already done, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, no test, then okay. Then maybe we will continue. Okay, we'll continue our uh progress. Okay. So okay, last week we prepare biology tests. Okay. So so we will continue with the chemistry. Okay. Acids, bases, and salts. Okay. Acids, bases, and salts. Okay, so we will continue with this chemistry. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I thought we want to prepare for your test. Okay, no problem. Uh, okay. Let me just get ready my notes. Okay, hold on. Okay. Okay, okay, let us continue. Um, okay. Okay, this is our topic. Okay, so we already finished all the notes last time. Okay, and for the workbook, okay, so for workbook, we also did get started. Okay, we did get started. Okay, so we were up to question 10. Okay, yeah, question 10 here. Okay, yeah, let's carry on. Okay, what is the characteristic feature? Okay, characteristic feature of an acid. Okay, yeah, straightforward. Okay, characteristic of acid produces hydrogen ions when added to water. Okay, produces hydrogen ions when added to water. Straightforward. Okay, next. What is meant by each of the following term? Okay, so what's the difference between weak acid and strong acid? Okay, difference between weak acid and strong acid. Okay, weak acid partially ionizes. Okay, partially dissociates when added to water. Okay, so it does not break down completely. Okay, it forms an equilibrium. Strong acid completely ionizes or completely dissociates when added to water. Okay, next. Okay, write equations to show ionization of hydrochloric acid and ethanoic acid. Okay, so we know that hydrochloric acid is a strong acid. Okay, so it will uh, completely dissociates. Okay, dissociates completely. Ethanoic acid is a weak acid, so it will dissociate partially. Okay, this is partial dissociation. This is complete. Okay, so the equation is like this. Okay, yep. So we got the one-way arrow. One-way arrow. Okay, so for ethanoic acid, okay, so it still forms the hydrogen ion, but it forms equilibrium. Okay, yeah, so the reaction goes both ways. Okay, partially dissociates. Okay, Okay. Explain the difference between strong and weak acid compared with concentrated and dilute acids. Okay, so what's the difference? Okay. Um, okay, so strong and weak acid. Okay, so we talk about concentrated and dilute first. Okay, so concentrated and dilute, let's say we have the same acid. Okay, so we are comparing the same acid. Concentrated will be high hydrogen ion, dilute will be low hydrogen ion. Yeah, okay, so that is the main point. Okay, we are comparing the same acid. Okay, strong and weak acid, we are comparing the same concentration. Yeah, okay. Okay, when we are comparing the same concentration, so 0.1 mole per dm cube. Okay, so weak acid, this is also 0.1 mole per dm cube. Okay, so they supposed to have the same concentration of hydrogen ion. They supposed to have because they have the same concentration, but they do not have the same concentration because weak acid they dissociate partially. So weak acid will be low hydrogen concentration. Strong acid will be high hydrogen concentration. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, yep. Okay, so strong acid completely ionizes or dissociates when added to water. Weak acid ionizes partially. Okay, so concentrated acid, there will be high concentration of acid particles. Dilute acid, much lower concentration of acid particles. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, exam style question. Okay, so we need to fill in the blanks. Okay, so we'll do it one by one. Okay. Okay, acid dissolve in water to produce what? Okay, to produce hydrogen ions. Acid dissolve in water to produce hydrogen ions, which can be written as, okay, H plus aqueous. Okay, H plus aqueous is the hydrogen ion. Okay, bases are, okay, what's our bases? Bases are oxides. Okay, oxides of hydroxides of metals. Okay, so when we talk about base, okay, we're talking about metal oxide. Example, sodium oxide or hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide. Yeah, okay. Alkalis are soluble. Okay, so what are alkalis? They are soluble base. Okay, soluble bases. Okay, so base we have two types. One that is soluble, another one insoluble. Soluble base, we call them alkalis. Okay, they dissolve in water to produce, okay, hydroxide ions. Okay, alkalis dissolve in water to produce hydroxide ions. Okay, which can be written as, okay, hydroxide ions written as this. Okay, OH negative aqueous. Okay. Acids and alkalis react together to produce solution with a pH of 7. Okay. So when we mix together acids and alkali, we get pH 7. Okay. This is a neutralization reaction. Okay. Neutralization reaction, straightforward. Okay. Next. Okay, write an ionic equation for the neutralization reaction that takes place when acid reacts with alkali. Okay, ionic equation. Okay, so what it means by ionic equation? Okay, so example. Okay, sodium hydroxide. Okay, sodium hydroxide. Okay, react with hydrochloric acid. It will form sodium chloride and water. Okay. So to write the ionic equation, we need to change everything to ions. Okay. Change everything to ions. So sodium. Okay. So we're starting as aqueous. Okay. Aqueous. And then sodium chloride is also aqueous, soluble in water. Okay, water is just liquid. Okay, so now all the aqueous solutions we can change to ions. Okay, aqueous solutions we can change to ions. Okay, change to ions. Okay, plus water. Okay, so now for the ionic equation, what we need to do, we need to cancel. Okay, cancel um the ions that have no change. Okay, that have no change. Okay, so yeah, so these are all aqueous. Okay, aqueous, aqueous, aqueous. Okay, aqueous means soluble in water. Okay, so we can find the one that have no change is sodium ions. Before and after, they are the same. Okay, so we cancel. Okay, chloride also before and after, they are the same, no change. Okay, cancel. So what is left is the um ionic equation. So what is left here? This. Okay, so this is the real change that happened in this reaction. Okay, so for ionic equation, we want to simplify things. We just want to keep the things that actually happen. Okay, so yeah, so our ionic equation will look like this. Okay, so this is how we get the ionic equation. Okay, next. Okay, in a reaction between potassium carbonate, okay, potassium carbonate and hydrochloric acid produce potassium chloride crystals, the following method was used. Okay, so we can quickly look at the first question. Balance chemical equation. Okay, so this is straightforward. Okay, potassium carbonate. Yeah, potassium carbonate is like this. Okay, hydrochloric acid. Okay, react to form potassium chloride salts, water, and carbon dioxide. Okay, so we just need to balance it. Okay, so make sure everything is balanced. Okay. Um. Okay, let's look at the method. 25 cm cube of hydrochloric acid was placed in a beaker. Okay, so first we put the hydrochloric acid. Okay, in the beaker. Okay, 25 cm cube. Okay, and then we add solid potassium carbonate. Okay, so we add the solid potassium carbonate. Okay, and effervescence was seen. Okay, bubbling. So makes sense because it produced carbon dioxide. Okay, mixture was stirred and potassium carbonate was added until some remained at the bottom of the beaker. Okay, so potassium carbonate we add in excess. Okay, so this is quite important because we make sure the hydrochloric acid is fully reacted. Yeah, okay. So we don't want any hydrochloric acid to remain. Okay, make sure it is fully reacted. Then mixture was filtered and the filtrate collected in a evaporating basin. Okay, so we filter the reaction mixture to remove to remove the potassium carbonate. Okay, to remove the potassium carbonate. Yeah, so this is quite useful. Okay, so we filter. Okay, okay. So if we filter, we will collect the unreacted, okay, potassium carbonate, and then the hydrochloric acid already fully reacted. So we are left with the potassium chloride here, which is our product. Okay. Okay. And then this filtrate we put at the evaporating basin. Okay. We put at the evaporating basin and then heated until about one half had evaporated and then crystals were starting to form. Okay. So we will heat it up to remove the excess water. Okay. Heat it up to remove the excess water to get a saturated solution. Okay. Saturated solution. Then we will start to get the crystals. Okay. Solution remain was allowed to cool and crystals are formed. Okay. Finally, we collect the KCl, the product. Okay. So that is the idea for this reaction. So is to produce the soluble salts of the potassium chloride. Okay. Why potassium carbonate added until some remain at the bottom of the beaker? Okay. So why we do that? Because we want to make sure it is in excess. Okay. Make sure that it is in excess to ensure all the hydrochloric acid had been neutralized. Okay. Okay, next. What was the name of the filtrate? Okay. So what was the name of the filtrate? Okay, so what is in the filtrate? Okay. So the filtrate is actually the potassium chloride. Okay. So it is a potassium chloride solution. Okay. Yep. Um okay, what name is given to a solution that has crystals starting to form from it? Okay. So what is the name of this solution? It is this, okay, saturated solution I mentioned just now. Okay. So if the solution is too dilute, the crystals they do not form. Okay. Because they dissolve very well in the water. Okay. So when it is dilute, the crystals do not form. We need to remove some water so that we get a saturated solution. Then the crystals start to form. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, reaction is carried out to prepare sample of sodium sulfate starting from sodium hydroxide and dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, the reaction is carried out using a titration method. Explain clearly how you would prepare the sodium sulfate crystals. Okay, so we will use a titration. Okay, we will use a titration method. Okay, uh, okay. So first, we are preparing this. Okay, sodium sulfate. Okay, so we will use titration. Okay, what does titration method, the setup look like? Okay, yes, looks like this. Okay, yep. So this is a titration setup. Okay, yep. Okay, so this is the setup that we will use. Okay, so how should we do it? Okay, okay, so a lot of steps. Okay, so we'll see one by one. Okay, 25 cm cube of dilute sodium hydroxide solution placed in a conical flask using pipette and safety filter. Okay, safety filler. Okay, yep. Okay, so safety filler, pipette. Okay, so this pipette is 25 cm cube. Okay, so it allow us to measure exactly 25 cm cube of the solution, and then we will place in a conical flask. Okay, the potassium hydroxide. No, sodium hydroxide. Okay, sodium hydroxide here. Okay. Yeah. And then the acid will be here. Okay. Sulfuric acid will be here. Okay. So normally we will put the alkali at the conical flask. Okay. So normally we don't put the alkali in the burette. Okay. Because the alkali, it can react. Okay. React with the glass. Okay. The burette can get stuck. Okay. So normally we don't put the sodium hydroxide in the burette. Okay. Okay. 3 or 4 drops of thymoltalin indicator. Okay. So we will add the indicator. Okay. Indicator. Okay. Burette is filled with the dilute sulfuric acid solution. Okay. This part here. Okay. Some runs through the valve and the initial burette reading was taken. Okay. So first we will read the starting volume. Okay. So let's say we're starting with 40 cm cube. Okay. Something like that. And then uh how much we added to the beaker. Let's say we end up with like 25 cm cube, something like that. So we added 15 cm cube, for example. Okay. Okay. The acid added from the burette into the flask. Okay. So we will add, okay, the acid into the flask with swirling until the color of the indicator just changed from blue to colorless. Okay. The final burette reading is taken and the volume of acid needed to neutralize the sodium hydroxide is found. Okay. So we will take the reading. Okay. And then we need to repeat the process. Okay. We need to repeat the process. Make sure make sure our reading is consistent. Okay. Our result is consistent. Okay. This time without indicator, but using exactly the same volumes. Okay. So let's say we already repeated a few times. We confirm the reading is correct. So now we are ready to prepare the salts. Okay. Because just now we put the indicator. So the indicator we don't want. Now we already know we need to put 15 cm cube. Okay. So now we will repeat without the indicator, but we still put 15 cm cube. Okay. So now we will get our product, sodium sulfate, without the indicator. Okay. Yeah. So we will put exactly the same volume of sodium hydroxide and dilute sulfuric acid. Okay. Okay. Neutralized solution from the repeat experiment. Pour into an evaporating basin and solution heated until the volume, half of the volume evaporated. Okay, so same thing. So once we get this product, we'll transfer to the evaporating basin. Okay, we will heat it up to remove excess water to get a saturated solution. Okay, saturated solution, and then it will start to crystallize. Okay. Yep. Solution left to cool and then crystals will form slowly. Okay. Yeah. So this is the complete process. So sometimes we may get asked to um describe this kind of experiments. Okay. Next. Okay, write a balanced chemical equation reaction between sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. Okay. Straightforward. Okay. Sodium hydroxide, okay, with sulfuric acid form sodium sulfate salts and water. Okay. So adding all the state symbols, okay, and balance the equation. Okay. Yeah. So just make sure everything is balanced. Okay. Yep. Okay. So with this is done. Okay. So everything is done for this topic, acid and bases. Okay. And the notes, okay, also all done. Okay, for this acids and bases topic. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so we can quickly update. Okay, quickly update our schedule. Okay, hold on. And Okay. Okay. Um, yep, this one. Okay, so we can update. Okay, so this is already done. Okay. Okay, acids, bases, and salts already done. Okay, so making progress there. Okay, today is December 7th. Okay, December 7th. Okay. Okay, so now what is our next topic? Okay, let's take a look. Acids, bases, and salts. Next topic is respiration. Yeah, okay. So we will move on to respiration as our next topic. Okay. Respiration is biology. Okay. So yeah, so we are halfway through around there. Okay. All right. Okay. Respiration. Okay. Let me check whether I already sent you or not the notes. Okay. Hold on. Let me check. Um, okay, let me check the WhatsApp. Okay. Okay, I already sent to you last time for the notes for the respiration. Okay. Okay, let's take a look. Yep. Respiration on biology. Okay. Okay. Um, yep. Okay. So respiration, this is quite a short and simple topic. Okay. Short and simple topic, very straightforward. Okay. So basically, we are learning about two types of respiration. Okay. So two type of respiration. So respiration, what is respiration? Respiration, we break down, okay, glucose. Okay. We break down glucose to get energy. Okay. So that is the main idea for respiration. Okay. So it is a process in our body that help us to get energy. Okay. So that is respiration. So we have two types of respiration, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Okay. Aerobic respiration, it happened with oxygen. Yeah. So that is the main point. Okay. Aerobic respiration with oxygen and aerobic respiration without oxygen. Okay, so we will look into it in more detail. Why we have two types of respiration. Okay, so respiration is a process that cells use to produce energy. Okay, so that is the main point, to produce energy. Okay, because we have many energy consuming processes. Okay. So everything we do in our body, we need energy. Okay. So energy is very, very important. Okay. So for example, we need energy to contract our muscles, to move our muscles. Okay. So to walk, to use our hands. Okay. We need muscles, we need to move our muscles. Okay, so we need energy for that. Okay, synthesis of proteins. Okay, to produce some uh, molecules in our bodies. To produce proteins, we also need energy. Okay, cell division, to create more cells, we also need energy. Okay, active transport. Okay, so we want to move um, molecules across the cell membrane. We also need um, energy. Okay, for active transport, we need energy. Diffusion and osmosis, no need energy, but active transport, we need energy. Okay, growth. Okay, to grow our bodies, we need energy to form new cells. Okay, conduction of electrical impulses, okay, to send signals in our body. We need energy. Okay, maintaining constant body temperature, we need energy. Okay, if our environment is cold, then we need extra energy to keep ourselves warm. Okay, so energy comes from the food. Okay, that cells taking. Okay, so the energy is coming from our food, which is glucose, mainly glucose. So respiration will release energy from the glucose. Okay, yeah. Okay, so respiration it is very temperature dependent. Okay, it's very temperature dependent because respiration it depends on enzymes. Okay, so enzymes are the substances that help respiration to happen. Okay, so because it depends on enzyme, so the effect of temperature is the same of the effect on enzyme. Yeah, okay. So for low temperature, the rate of respiration it is also low. Okay. But when we increase to around 37 degrees Celsius, we get the optimum temperature for respiration. But after that, the rate of respiration will decrease quickly because the enzymes will be denatured. Okay, if the temperature is too high. Okay. Okay. So how do we study the respiration process? Okay. Example, we have a yeast and glucose solution. How we study the respiration process, we collect the gas. Okay, as we will learn later, the respiration it will produce carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so by collecting the carbon dioxide gas, we can find out how fast the respiration. If it produces lots of carbon dioxide quickly, means it's happening very quickly, the respiration. Okay. If it release less carbon dioxide, okay, over the same amount of time, so means the rate of respiration is low. Okay. Yep. And then other conditions, okay, how we do this experiment. Okay. So we want to study the rate of respiration at different temperature. Yeah, okay. So at different temperature, how we control the temperature. Okay. So we will use water bath, okay, to control temperature. Okay. And then we use the gas syringe to collect the carbon dioxide gas. Okay. So that um so that we know how fast the reaction. Okay. Okay, so we know as temperature increases, okay, from here to here, let's say from 10 degrees to 37 degrees Celsius, the volume of carbon dioxide will be increasing. Okay, optimum will be 35 to 40 degrees. Okay, around 37. Okay, is the optimum temperature. Higher temperatures, the rate will be decreasing quickly because enzymes start to denature. Okay, so this is how we study the respiration. Okay, next. Aerobic respiration. Okay, as we mentioned before. Okay, so in human, we use aerobic respiration most of the time. Okay, we use aerobic respiration most of the time. Okay, how it happened? Glucose plus oxygen produce water and carbon dioxide. Okay, so this one I'm sure you have learned before. Okay, year 7 to year 9 have learned before. Okay, one glucose molecules can release the energy of 2,830 kilojoules of energy. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it produces a lot of energy. So for the extended course, we also need to memorize the chemical equation. So we need to know both word equation and chemical equation. Okay. So chemical equation, excuse me. Okay, we need to know the chemical formula of glucose. Okay, oxygen producing water and carbon dioxide. And we need to balance the equation as well. Okay, so make sure we know how to balance the equation. Okay, yep. And then, um, okay, we need to explain for the extended course. Not only we need to know the trend, temperature, rate of reaction, rate of respiration, how it changes with temperature. We also need to explain in detail. Okay, explain in detail why. Okay, so first we know that temperature increase, the rate of respiration will increase. Okay, because increase in temperature will increase the kinetic energy of the molecules. Okay, so kinetic energy of the molecules increase, they move faster, they collide more frequently, so they react more. Rate of reaction increases. Okay. Yep. Okay. Anaerobic respiration. Okay. So just now we have aerobic respiration. So now we have anaerobic respiration. Okay. Most important point, it does not require oxygen. It does not need oxygen. Okay. So why is it useful? Okay. Why is it useful? When tissues are respiring very fast. Okay. Example, when we are exercising. Okay. When we are doing exercise, okay, we need a lot of oxygen, but the oxygen supply is not fast enough to cope. Okay, our breathing is not fast enough to get the oxygen that we need. Okay, so the tissues, they still need the energy, so they will start to have the anaerobic respiration. Okay, but the problem with anaerobic respiration is less efficient and less energy is produced. Okay. Yep. So what happened in our body? Glucose is a lot. Okay. We have lots of glucose, no problem. Glucose is enough. What we are lacking is oxygen. Yeah. Okay. We are lacking of oxygen. So although um anaerobic respiration is less efficient, we can get less energy, but it's still okay. We still can get enough energy. Why? Because we are using lots of glucose. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, one glucose molecules produce 118 kilojoules of energy. Okay, so just now, one molecule is 2,800 kilojoules of energy. Now it only produce 118 kilojoules. Okay. Yep. So for anaerobic respiration, we need to learn two types. Okay. Two types of anaerobic respiration. Um, okay. Two type. One is in the yeast. Okay. Anaerobic respiration in the yeast, we will have glucose convert to ethanol and carbon dioxide. Okay. So this is a process to produce uh alcoholic drinks. Okay. Like beer. Okay, alcoholic drinks. Okay, so anaerobic respiration, it does not produce water. Okay, next, anaerobic respiration in muscles. Okay, so in human, it happened differently. Okay, so glucose to lactic acid. That's all for anaerobic respiration in the human muscles. Glucose turn to lactic acid. That's all. Okay. So two types of anaerobic respiration that we need to know about. Okay. Um, so it does not produce carbon dioxide or water, just lactic acid. Okay. So for the anaerobic respiration in yeast, we also need to know the chemical equation. Okay. So need to know the chemical formula of glucose, ethanol, and carbon dioxide. Okay. Next, for the anaerobic respiration in muscles, okay? So what actually happened there? Glucose produced lactic acid, okay? So So this process can give us energy, but it's not unlimited. Okay, it is not unlimited. Not unlimited. It has to stop after some time. Okay, why? Because we are building up the oxygen debt. Okay, so what is the oxygen debt? Is the oxygen that we are lacking. Okay, so this is the oxygen debt. We can feel it because the lactic acid, okay, will give us the muscle pain or muscle cramp. Okay, so when we exercise too much, we have too much lactic acid, then we will feel muscle pain or muscle cramp. Okay, so we have to stop. Okay, so it's not unlimited. Okay, and then after we stop, we still need to um we still need to breathe. Okay, we still need to continue breathing um to repay the oxygen debt. Okay, so what happened here? Okay, so we can take a look at this picture here. Okay, so we can take a look at this picture. Okay, what is actually happening? So when we start the exercise, okay, so when we start the exercise, oxygen consumption, okay, so we need a lot of oxygen, okay. Yeah, so basically this our oxygen requirement, okay? But we are lacking the oxygen. So we use the anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration to um fulfill this oxygen deficit, okay? To fulfill the oxygen that we need. Okay? We use the anaerobic respiration. Okay? So we continue to exercise, okay? So after we end the exercise, we still breathing quite fast for some time, okay? So after we stop running, for example, we are still breathing fast for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. Why? To repay this oxygen debt. Okay. To repay this oxygen debt that we owe just now. Okay. So this is the recovery process. Okay. After we end the exercise, we still need to breathe faster for some time to recover. Okay. So what is the recovery process? To convert the lactic acid back to glucose, okay, or other molecules. So that is the idea of repaying the oxygen debt. Okay. So muscles respire anaerobically, okay, when we are exercising vigorously. Okay. Vigorous exercise, we will have the anaerobic respiration to make up the energy that we need. Okay. Because the blood cannot supply enough oxygen to maintain aerobic respiration, so we will build up the lactic acid that cause muscle cramp or muscle fatigue. Okay. So oxygen debt is created. Okay. Because oxygen is needed for aerobic respiration. So now, after the exercise ended, we still need to continue to supply more oxygen to convert the lactic acid back to harmless chemical. Okay, so example, we will convert it back to pyruvic acid, for example. Okay, so the process is quite complicated. So at this moment, we just need to know that it's convert back to pyruvic acid. This happens in the liver. Okay. Yep. So normally at the end of the race, when we end the exercise, the sprinter they pant. Okay, pant means they continue to breathe quickly to get sufficient oxygen to repay the oxygen debt. Okay, so repay the oxygen debt. Breathing remains deep and fast to supply enough oxygen for the aerobic respiration of the lactic acid. Okay, so the heart rate remains fast to transport lactic acid from the muscles to the liver. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, sample question. Okay, explain why the breathing pattern changes after a period of vigorous exercise. Okay, so yeah, so after period of exercise, the breathing rate will be increasing because muscles build up an oxygen debt. Okay, so when they respire anaerobically, oxygen is needed to break down the lactic acid produced to prevent muscle fatigue. Okay, so basically, after we end the exercise, we still need to continue to supply more oxygen to repay the oxygen debt. Okay. Okay, exam style questions. Okay, make a table to compare aerobic and anaerobic respiration in humans using the headings shown below. Okay, yep. Let's take a look at the table. Okay, yep. Okay, so this is our table. Okay, okay. So what we need to compare. Okay, aerobic and anaerobic respiration requirements. Okay, so what are the requirements? Okay, so aerobic respiration need oxygen and glucose. Okay, anaerobic glucose only. Okay, products aerobic respiration. Okay, water, carbon dioxide, and energy. Okay, so okay, this one we are asking for anaerobic respiration in human. Okay, so we want the one with muscles. Okay, not the yeast. Okay, so we will produce lactic acid and energy. Okay, comparative amount of energy release. Okay, so how much energy release? Okay, so for the aerobic respiration, will produce large amount of energy, but anaerobic will be producing less energy. Okay. Next question 2. Okay, what gas is produced when yeast respires? Okay, what kind of gas is produced when we have the yeast respiration? Okay, we know that yeast respiration will produce ethanol and carbon dioxide. Okay, carbon dioxide is produced. Okay, next. Okay, suggest 2 reasons why yeast may die if left in a solution of glucose in a sealed container for 48 hours. Okay, so in a sealed container, so means no oxygen. Okay, so no oxygen, so there will be anaerobic respiration. Okay, anaerobic respiration, the yeast will die. Okay, so it's saying that the yeast will die. Okay, why? Okay, why the yeast die after 48 hours? Okay, that is because it may have used up all the glucose, no more food, or it produce ethanol. Okay, so the ethanol, if it is too much, okay, too high the concentration, too much, it will become a poison to the yeast. Okay, or the carbon dioxide make the solution too acidic. Okay, when it is too acidic, it is also harmful to the yeast. Okay, or overcrowding. The yeast is growing too fast, it is overcrowding, so some of it will die off. Okay, so these are the possible reasons. Okay, next. Suggest why a runner taking part in a long distance race avoid sprinting until near the end of the race. Okay, so long distance race like a marathon. Okay, so marathon, they need to run 42 kilometers. Okay, they need to run 42 kilometers. Normally, they run slow. Okay, normally they run slow. They only run fast towards the end. Okay, they only start sprinting towards the end. Okay, why? Because they don't want to start the anaerobic respiration. They don't want to start the anaerobic respiration. No, because if they start the anaerobic respiration, they will start to have the muscle pain. Yeah, okay. They will start to have the muscle pain. That is not a good thing. Yeah, so they want to maintain aerobic most of the time. Okay, so that they can get to the end without too much muscle pain. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay. Yep. Okay. So they want to avoid relying on anaerobic respiration for energy. Okay. Okay. First problem, anaerobic respiration, it releases less energy. Okay. Than aerobic respiration. And then it will also cause the lactic acid to build up. Okay. Lactic acid can build up, resulting in a muscle cramp. Okay. So that's why they don't want to get into an aerobic respiration. Okay. B, explain why runners breathe faster during a run than before they start the run. Okay. So why they are breathing faster when they start running. Okay. So this is straightforward. Okay. That is because they need more oxygen for aerobic respiration to supply muscles with energy. Okay. So that's why they need to breathe faster to get more oxygen. Okay. Yep. So with this, we have finished. Okay. So this is a short topic. Okay. So we finish all. Yeah. Okay. This a short topic. Okay. Um. Okay. So now we will look at the workbook. Okay. So we'll look at the workbook. Okay. Yep. Okay. So this is the workbook. Okay. And then later I will send to you also the homework. Okay. So the homework is coming from this book here. Wait. Hold on. Okay. Wait. Um. Uh. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the homework will be coming from this book. Okay. So later I will send. Okay. So for the respiration topic. Okay. Now let's look at respiration. Okay. Workbook. Write the word equation for aerobic respiration. Straightforward. Aerobic respiration. Okay. Glucose plus oxygen produce carbon dioxide and water. Okay. State three uses of energy produced in the bodies of humans. Okay. So why we need energy? Okay. Why we need energy? Okay. Example. Okay. So for muscle contraction, protein synthesis, cell division, active transport, growth, passage of nerve impulses, maintaining a constant body temperature. Okay. These are all the examples of processes that need energy. Okay. Okay. Name the waste product of anaerobic respiration in muscles. Okay. So what is the product for anaerobic respiration? Lactic acid. Okay. Lactic acid. Just now we mentioned. Okay. Why it is disadvantage for an athlete to respire anaerobically. Okay. So why it's not a good thing to have anaerobic respiration? Because it will produce less energy, okay, and it produces lactic acid, which causes muscle cramps. Okay. Next. Okay, when yeast respires anaerobically, two products are produced. Okay, two products are produced. Complete the table by naming the products and identifying a manufacturing process that makes use of each product. Yeah, okay. So, anaerobic respiration of yeast. Okay. Anaerobic respiration of yeast. It produces two things. Okay. Um, ethanol and carbon dioxide. Okay. So why are they useful? Okay. So why are they useful? Um, let's take a look. Okay. So ethanol, okay, can be used to produce biofuel. Okay. So it can be used in the cars. Okay. Ethanol used as biofuel and also to produce alcoholic drinks like beer, okay, wine, things like that. Okay. Alcoholic drinks. Carbon dioxide is used for bread making. Okay. So carbon dioxide make the bread rise. Okay. Rise up. Okay. So that's the idea. They are both useful. Okay. Okay. Next. When seeds germinate, their rate of respiration increases using glucose as a source of energy. Okay. Write a balanced symbol equation for aerobic respiration in the seeds. Okay. Yeah, seed germination we learned about last week. So for the seeds to grow into the young plants, they need lots of energy. So they will use the energy inside the seeds. Okay. So how they convert the energy is by respiration. Okay. Yep. Symbol equation. Okay. Glucose plus oxygen turns to carbon dioxide and water. Okay. We just need to make sure the equation is balanced. Okay. Next, which set of statements is correct? Circle the letter of the correct answer. Okay. So, okay, let's take a look one by one. Photosynthesis produce carbon dioxide. No, it produce oxygen. Okay. Traps energy. Yes. Photosynthesis uses carbon dioxide. Um, uses carbon dioxide. Yes. Release energy. No. Okay. Aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration using carbon dioxide. No. It produces carbon dioxide. Release energy. Yes. Okay. Anaerobic respiration in muscles produce no carbon dioxide. Yes. No carbon dioxide produced. Release energy. Yes. Okay. So our answer um should be D. Okay? Yep, should be D. Okay, next. Okay. So we have experimental setup here. Okay. Conical flask set up with mixture of yeast and sugar solution as shown in the diagram. Okay. So this is a anaerobic respiration. Okay. So anaerobic respiration. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me just erase. Okay. Okay, so this is the anaerobic respiration of the yeast. Okay. Okay. Glucose produce ethanol and carbon dioxide. No problem. Okay. So yeast and sugar solution will form the gas bubbles. So the gas bubbles will be the carbon dioxide. Okay. So CO2 gas bubbles passing through lime water. So we know the lime water will go from colorless to milky, okay, or cloudy, okay, cloudy, in the presence of carbon dioxide, okay. So this is the setup. amount of bubbling was observed and the gas given off passed through lime water. Time taken for the lime water to change color was recorded. Okay, so how fast it changed color? It's telling us how fast the respiration. Okay, straightforward. Okay, okay. So we are studying 5 different temperature. Okay, so makes sense. Okay, so it's kind of like this, right? The trend. Okay, the trend is kind of like this. Okay, yep. Okay, so um, when the temperature is low, okay, when the temperature is low, no bubbles. Okay, no change. Okay, um, 15 degrees, slow bubbling. Okay, take a long time. Okay, 30 degrees. Okay, many bubbles. Okay, 30 degrees, we have many bubbles. Okay, 45. Okay, slow bubbling. Okay, 100 degrees. Okay, no bubbles. Yeah. Okay, so that is the typical behavior of the um respiration. Okay, with different temperatures. Okay, name the process that carried out by the yeast to produce the bubbles of gas. Okay, so what is the process? It is, okay, respiration. What gas is tested using lime water? Okay, so what gas we are testing? Carbon dioxide. Okay, color change of lime water. Okay, we know that. Colorless to milky. Okay, chemical that would be present in the flask at the end of the experiment. Okay, um, at 30 degrees that was not present at the start. Okay, so um, okay, it produced carbon dioxide. What else it produced? It also produced ethanol or alcohol. Okay, okay, outline the conclusion that can be drawn from the result from this experiment. Okay, so what are our conclusion? Okay, so it's this, right? Okay, so this is our conclusion. Okay, okay, respiration of yeast is very slow at low temperature. Yeah, okay, like this. Okay, as molecules have little kinetic energy, so few collisions. Okay, so as the temperature increases to 30 degrees, the rate of reaction increases. Okay, because the kinetic energy of the reacting molecules increases. The molecules can move faster, they collide more often, so they react more. Okay, so 30 degrees is optimum temperature for yeast respiration in this reaction, as molecules have lots of kinetic energy to collide. Okay, and then enzymes of the yeast, okay, enzymes of the yeast, they start to denature at 45 degrees. Okay, start to denature, so respiration will slow down. Okay, all the yeast, all the enzymes denature at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, all the enzymes already denatured, so no respiration, no respiration happen. Okay, yeah, so these are the points that we need to include. Okay, okay, next. How do the products of anaerobic respiration in mussels and yeast differ? Okay, mussels and yeast. Okay, so we know that. Um, okay, yeast, okay, like this. Glucose produce ethanol and carbon dioxide. Mussels, glucose produce lactic acid. Okay, so this is the main difference. Okay, yeah. Okay, So muscles will produce lactic acid. Okay, yeast produce ethanol and carbon dioxide. Yeah. Okay. After vigorous exercise, oxygen debt can build up. Okay. Explain why this happened. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is the oxygen debt here. Okay. Oxygen debt. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oxygen debt. Okay. Why this happened? Okay. Muscles respire anaerobically, producing lactic acid. Okay. So that is the one that build up the oxygen debt that need to be paid back later. Okay. Okay. How the debt is paid back, how the debt is removed. Okay. So after the exercise stop, we still continue rapid and deep breathing to provide oxygen to break down the lactic acid. Okay. We repay the oxygen debt after we stop the exercise. Okay. Okay. Done. Okay. So this is a short topic. We finish all. Okay. Everything is done. Okay. Okay. So this respiration topic is done completely. Okay. Okay. Let me copy this. Okay. It is a short topic. Okay. Okay. Making progress here. Okay. Next, let's take a look. Okay. Respiration is done. So now, we move on to the next topic, periodic table. Okay. Periodic table, chemistry. Okay. Let's take a look. Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay. Um, I think I haven't sent it to you. The notes. Okay, let me send it now. Okay, let me send it now. Okay. Okay, so this is unit 9 of chemistry. Okay, unit 9 of the chemistry. Okay, let me see. Uh okay. Yeah, actually I already sent. Yes, I already sent to you. Okay. Yep. In the WhatsApp I have sent to you. Okay, for the unit 9 chemistry. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, periodic table. Okay. So in this topic, we will look at the trends in the periodic table. Okay. So basically the periodic table, it can give us a lot of information. Okay. It can give us a lot of information about um the reactions that can happen for different elements. Okay. So by looking at the periodic tables, we can predict what kind of reactions will happen. Okay. So it's useful to understand that. Okay. Let's look at some terms. Okay, alkali metals, group one. Okay, group one in the periodic table. Okay, so group one is here. Okay, so group one, all of this. Okay, they are group one, alkali metals. Okay, okay, electronic configuration. We know that arrangement of electrons. Okay, group vertical columns. Okay, vertical columns. Okay, so these are groups. Okay, group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6, group 7, group 8. Okay, so these are the groups. We also have periods horizontal rows. Okay, periods. Okay, period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5, period 6, period 7. Okay, so period, it depends on how many shells. Okay, so how many shells of electrons. Group, it depends on how many um, outer electrons. Okay, how many outer electrons um on the elements. Okay. Next, halogens. Okay, so halogens, we are referring to group 7. Okay, we have a common name for the group 7, halogens. Okay, group 7 elements. Okay, noble gases. Okay, so noble gases, group 8. Group 8, what we call noble gases. Okay, because they are unreactive. Okay, periodic table. Okay, periodic table, table of elements arranged in order of increasing proton number. Okay, so we need to understand that how we arrange the elements. Okay, why we start with hydrogen, why we follow with helium, why we follow with lithium, beryllium, boron, why we do it in this order. Okay, why this order is in the order of proton number. Okay, so it depends on how many number of proton. Okay, hydrogen 1 proton, helium 2 proton, lithium 3 proton, beryllium 4 proton, boron 5 proton, and so on. Okay, so we put the order in the order of number of protons. Okay, yeah. Okay, transition elements. Okay, transition elements found in the center of periodic table. Okay, yep. So these are the transition elements. Okay, so they have different characteristics compared to the other elements. Okay, yep. Okay, so how we understand the periodic table? Um, Okay, early tables like maybe like few hundred years ago, we still don't have a good understanding of the elements. We arrange in the order of mass number. So this is wrong. Okay, mass number is proton plus neutron. This is wrong. Okay, the correct way to do it is to do it in the order of proton number. Okay, yep. So basically, periodic table have the elements arranged in the order of increasing proton number. Okay, yep. Okay, and then we have the vertical columns that are the groups. Okay, so these are the groups. Okay, horizontal rows, periods. Okay, periods. Yep, yep. Okay, and then going for period 2 and 3, going from left to right, we're going from metal to non-metal. Okay, period 2 and 3. Okay, so if we focus, okay, period 2 and 3, okay, so we will be going from metal to non-metal. Okay, so we focus on this line here. Okay, so this is the boundary, okay, between metal and non-metal. Yeah, okay, so this is the boundary. Yep, yeah, okay, so we need to remember that. Okay, okay, so transition metals, we also have two groups that we put outside. Okay, so this is what we call lanthanides and actinides. Okay, so they are not very commonly found on Earth. Most of them are uncommon, so we don't, at this level, we don't need to know too much about them. Okay, we just need to know that they are part of the transition metals. Okay, okay. Electronic configuration and the periodic table. Okay. Yep. Okay, so just now we mentioned same group. Okay, you see this one. Why they are in the same group? Okay, why they are in the same group? Because they all have the same number of outer electron. Yeah, okay. Same number of outer electron. Okay, lithium, we have 3 electron. So electron configuration is 2, 1. Okay, 2, 1. Sodium, we have 11. 11 electron, 2, 8, 1. Okay, so they all have same number of outer electron. They all have one outer electron. That's why they are in the same group. Okay. Group 2, like this one, they all have 2 outer electrons. Okay. And then this one, they all have 3 outer electrons, all have 4 outer electrons, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Okay. Because they have the same number of outer electrons, they are put in the same groups. Okay. Okay, same number of outer electrons. Okay. Number of electrons in the outer shell determines the chemical properties. Okay. So how many outer electron will determine what kind of chemical reactions. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Number of occupied shell will be the same of as the period number. Okay. So we'll look at the potassium example. Potassium. Okay. Proton number is 19 here. Proton number is 19. Electronic configuration is like this 2881, like this. Okay. 2881, one outer electron. Okay. One electron at the outer shell. Okay. So it is in group 1. Okay. It have electron in 4 shells. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 shells. So it is in period 4. Okay. So we can see here potassium, group 1, period 4. Yeah, okay. So that's how we categorize. Okay. Um, yep. Some of the points that we need to pay attention. Group 1, okay, example, uh lithium, sodium, potassium. They have one outer electron. Okay. So they have one outer electron. How they get the full shell? They will lose the outer electron. Okay. Lose one electron, they will get the charge plus 1. Okay. Group 2. Okay, let me just okay, let me open again to to clear it up. Okay. Um yep. Okay. Let me just copy the periodic table. Wait. Okay. Okay, this is the periodic table. Okay. Yep. Okay, group 2 here. Group 2, like magnesium, calcium, they will have 2 outer electrons. Okay, 2 outer electrons. To get the full shell, they will lose the 2 electrons to get the ion of 2 plus. Okay, Mg2 plus, calcium 2 plus. Okay, group 3 here. Yeah, group 3. They have 3 outer electrons like aluminum. Okay, 3 outer electrons, lose 3 electrons to get aluminum 3 plus, for example. Okay. So group 4, okay, like carbon, okay, and silicon, okay, they are quite special, okay. They mostly form covalent bonds, okay. So they mostly form covalent bonds. So they do not really form ions, okay. They do not form ions. not often. Okay, they mostly form covalent bonds. Okay, group 4. Okay, group 5, like nitrogen, okay, phosphorus, okay, they have 5 outer electrons. Okay, so 5 outer electrons, they need to gain 3 electrons to form a full shell. Okay, like nitrogen, okay, 5 outer electrons, it need to gain 3 electron to form the negative ion. Okay, they will form 3 negative ions. Okay, group 6, okay, like oxygen and sulfur, they have 6 outer electrons. Okay, like oxygen, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so they need to gain, okay, 2 more electrons to form the full shell. Okay, so they will form negative charge. Okay, group 7. Okay, group 7 here, like chlorine, okay, fluorine, bromine. Okay, so like chlorine, it's got 7 outer electrons. Okay, 7 outer electrons, so it just need to gain 1 more to form the full shell. Okay, so it will form negative 1 ion. Okay, yep. So these are the general rules. Okay, example. Okay, let's say we are given sulfur. Okay, so we are given sulfur. It's got a proton number of 16. Okay, so which group and period it will be belong? Explain how you deduce your answer. Okay, so if we go to the periodic table, we can find it straight away. Okay, we can find it straight away, but we don't do that. Okay, we can deduce it based on our understanding. Okay, so sulfur proton number is 16, so means number of electron is also 16. Okay, so contain equal number of protons and electrons. Okay, so 16. So how we get the electron configuration? 286. Okay, so first shell, 2 electrons. Okay, second shell, 8. Okay, third shell, 6. Okay, 286. Okay, yeah. So the group number is same as the number of outer electrons. So we know sulfur will be group 6. Okay, period number is equal number of shell. It got 3 shell. Uh, 1, 2, 3, 3 shell. So it is in period 3. Okay, so this is how we work out. Okay, next one. Okay, so in the IGCSE, we need to know well for group 1. Okay, we need to have a good understanding about the group 1. Okay, so we will study in detail group 1. And then we also need to know about uh, group 7. Okay, group 7. What else? And group 8, transition elements. Okay, all right. Okay, so these are the main um, elements that we need to know about. Okay, so we need to have a good understanding of group 1, group 7, group 8, and also transition elements. Okay, transition elements. Okay, so these are the main things that we need to know for IGCSE. Okay, continue. Okay, group 1. Characteristics of group 1. Group 1, they are what we call alkali metals. Okay, alkali metals. Okay, their main reaction. Okay, react with water to produce alkaline solution. We'll look into that later. They are generally very reactive. Okay, they are very reactive. Okay, group 1 elements, we have lithium, the members. Okay, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. Okay, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. Okay, so these are the members of group 1. Okay, only lithium, sodium, potassium are found in school laboratories. Okay, only these three we can find in the school laboratories because rubidium, cesium, and francium, they are dangerously reactive. Okay, they are too dangerous. Okay, we don't keep them in the school lab. Okay, francium is also radioactive. Okay, so they are not safe. Okay, next. Okay, so we can see the number of electrons increasing. Okay, number of electrons increasing. The electron configuration is also more complicated. Okay, but we don't need to concern about that. The main thing we need to concern, they all have one outer electrons. Okay, so they all have one outer electrons means they are in group 1. Okay, so they have the characteristics of group 1. Okay, characteristics, they react rapidly with oxygen. Okay, they are very reactive. If you just let it expose to oxygen, it will straight away react. Like sodium will straight away react to form sodium oxide very quickly. Okay, so they are usually stored under oil. Okay, they are stored in oil to prevent contact with oxygen. Okay, so they are good conductors of heat and electricity because they are metals. Okay, they are soft. Okay, can be cut with a knife. Okay, shiny when cut but tarnish rapidly because reaction with the oxygen. Okay, okay, they generally have low density, low melting point, and low boiling point compared to transition metals. Okay, densities increase when we move down the group. Okay, yeah, so we can see here, yeah, um, they have generally low boiling points and melting points. Okay, melting points and boiling points decreases down the group. Yeah, okay, it decrease. Okay, when we go from lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, it decrease. Boiling point decrease, melting point also decrease. Okay, yep. So at this moment, we don't need to know like exactly why it decreased. We will learn in a higher level. At this moment, we just need to know that it decreased. Okay, melting points and boiling points. Okay. Reaction with water. Okay, reaction with water. Group 1 elements, they will react with water vigorously at room temperature. Okay, so here we just need to like know about the reactions of group 1. Okay, the type of reactions that can happen. Okay, so first we know that it reacts with water. Example, excuse me, react with, excuse me. Okay, let me drink some water. Okay, so group 1 metal reacts with water to form sodium hydroxide and oxygen. Okay, so yeah, so all of the group 1 will react with water to form hydroxide and oxygen. Example, lithium, same. lithium plus water form lithium hydroxide and hydrogen, same. All of them will be the same. Okay. And then another thing we need to know about is reactivity. Reactivity increases down the group. Increases down the group. Okay. So we are saying that we are going down the group lithium, sodium, potassium. It become more reactive. Okay. More reactive. Okay. Why? Before that, okay, you see, rubidium and cesium will be explosive. Okay. You mix rubidium and cesium with water, it straight away explode. It is very dangerous. Okay. It's very dangerous. Okay. So yeah, reactivity increase down the group. Okay. Um what we will observe. Okay. So let's say we have some water. Okay. We drop the group one. So let's say we drop some sodium. It will react. Okay. So sodium will react to form the sodium hydroxide. So the metal will disappear. So we will observe that the sodium it just is gone. Okay. Sodium disappeared more rapidly than lithium. Okay. So sodium is more reactive. So it will disappear faster. The metal melts. Okay. So we'll see that it reacts quickly and then the temperature is high. So it will melt. Bubbles and fizzing. Okay. Effervescence. It will produce gas. Why? Because hydrogen. Okay. Hydrogen is produced. Okay. Metal floats and move around the surface of the water. So you will notice the metal will move around. Okay. Sodium move around the surface faster than lithium. Okay. Sodium is more reactive. Potassium. Okay. Potassium is here. It's even more reactive. It will burst into a lilac flame. Yeah. Okay. It will burst into a lilac flame. Okay. Um. Yep. Okay. Okay. Another key point is um. Okay. We need to be very careful in the exam. Okay. When they ask for observations. Okay. When they ask for observation, we must be careful with our answer. Observation means we can actually see. Okay. The things that we can actually see is observation. Okay. So we just answer this only. Okay. We just answer this. These are the observations. What are the things not observations? Okay. Even though we know it happened, but it's not observation because we cannot see it. Like the name of the products. Like example, we cannot say observation is hydrogen gas. We cannot say that because we cannot say that it's hydrogen. We just see bubbles. That's all. Okay. Our observation is bubbles. Okay. But we cannot say it's hydrogen because we do not, just by looking at the bubbles, we cannot prove that it's hydrogen. So we cannot say it's hydrogen. We just can say bubbles. Okay. So observation, what is observation? We need to be very careful. Okay. A gas is given off. Okay. We cannot say it's a gas. We just can say that it's bubbles because we cannot see the gas. Okay. Alkaline solution, we cannot say that because we just see that it's a colorless solution. We just see like colorless solution here. We cannot say that it's alkaline because we cannot see just by looking at the solution, we cannot see it's alkaline or not. We need to test it. Okay, so this is not observation. Okay, color change of an indicator. Okay, so we cannot say that we have the color change unless we see it. Okay, only if we add the indicator. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so for the equation, all of them will be the same. If we put lithium, cesium, rubidium, the reaction will be the same. Okay, so they will have the same reaction. Okay, another thing I want to explain quickly. Okay, so this one, it may come in the exam. Okay, it may come in the exam. So let me explain. Okay, going down group one, we are saying that it becomes more reactive. Okay, so this one, a little bit of bubbles produced. Okay, this one is vigorous bubbles. Okay, so this one is straight away turn into flames. It gets more reactive. Okay, so the reason, the question is why? Why it becomes more reactive? Okay, so we focus on this picture. Okay, so for the group one reaction, what kind of reaction happen? What kind of reaction happen for group one is we lose the outer electron. Okay, we lose the outer electron to form lithium ion plus 1. We form the sodium ion plus 1, and then we form the potassium ion plus 1. Okay, so how the reaction happen, it depends on losing the electron. Okay, which one is easy to lose the electron? Okay, we are saying that the potassium is uh, easy to lose the electron. Okay, easy to lose electron. Okay, we are saying that the lithium is not easy to lose the electron. It's not easy to lose the electron. Why? Because it's very close to the nucleus. The nucleus is positive charge. Okay, all the nucleus is positive charge because they have protons. Okay, all the nucleus is positive charge. Okay, so we are saying that lithium is not easy to lose the electron. Why? Because it's very close. Okay, it's very close to the nucleus. There is a strong attraction. That's why it's not easy to lose the electron. That's why it's less reactive. Okay. Okay. Look at the potassium. The potassium is far away. Is far away from the nucleus. So you see this one. This one is close. Okay. This one, it is far away. Yeah. Okay. Because it's far away from the nucleus um is having less attraction. Okay, less attraction to the nucleus, the positive. So less attraction is easy to lose the electron. Okay, so that's why it is more reactive. Okay, so this is very important point. So going to higher levels, if you go to like air levels later, this is yeah, this is very important. Okay,